getting a sense of deja vu. I'm sure a lot of you here are also, because almost exactly 5 years ago, we were here in August of 2011 for the release of his earlier book, Letters to a Young Architect, today to release his second book, Architecture for Modern India. May I please request Ramprasad Akkisetti to come up onto the stage to take us through the process of making this book. Ram, a brief introduction to Ram. Ramprasad Akkisetti is a founder, managing director of Christopher Charles Benninger Architects, CCBA.
If one has to reflect, not more than 20 books were published since independence on the state of architecture and urbanism in India. 20 years later, Christopher Benninger, Architecture for Modern India, published by Schira Rizzoli from Milan and New York, has set a journey to significantly contribute to the practice of architecture. The book was recently released in Manhattan, none other than at the hands of Professor Kenneth Frampton, arguably the most important theorist of the architecture in our times. We have witnessed Letters to a Young Architect topping the best-selling non-fiction books chart for about 18 weeks. 5 years back, when this book was launched in this very auditorium, you were there for the launch, and now you're here again. We pioneered the multi-city book releases by going to the remotest corners of India. Many times, a book is released in one of the metro cities in India and it just remains there. The rest of the country is craving for such kind of opportunities. Every student and architect came to know about this book because we went to 20 different cities, and there has been subsequent inquiries of it being translated into other languages. Today, the book is being translated into Malayalam, Tamil, Bengali, Arabic, Hindi, apart from already being translated into Gujarati and Chinese. And the book sold more than 17,000 copies over 4 print runs addressing contemporary issues on education, urbanism, and the practice of architecture in our part of the world. This book couldn't have been popular without your support and promotion. It is time once again for us to come together to celebrate the birth of this new book that has its roots in our city, Pune. As you know, celebration, be it a marriage, or birth of a child, or some success, has never been in isolation. Our friends, professional colleagues, fellows at work, and stakeholders have directly or indirectly supported us in various capacities and at various times in being what we are today. You all are our friends. And that is the simple reason why you're all over here today, despite your busy schedules. Wow, look at the audience, look at the numbers. I would not mind saying, call it my arrogance, Pune has come out of age to be the leader of architecture in our country. We have used acronyms for Pune such as Pensioners Paradise, the IT Hub, the Motown, Oxford of the East. Yes, we can with some authority at this point say it is the Center for Design and Architecture. Several of our city architects like Ravi Gadre, Girish Doshi, Sunil Patil, Vivek Dikshit, I. Chedi, Usha Ragarajan, Varsha Ravi Gavande, Vikas Borsekar, and a few others that I cannot recollect at this moment, along with some of our past associates like Madhav Joshi, Sunil Mune, Deepak Gugri, and Khushru Irani have demonstrated time and again that Pune has taken over Ahmedabad, Bombay, Delhi, and Bangalore as the design capital of the country. Your presence today in such large numbers will send a message to the rest of the country that you care and contribute to the intellectual capital of our profession. We run very important schools of architecture in our city. We have witnessed our city professionals heading numerous national platforms and professional bodies. Last week, we have witnessed BNCA College of Architecture releasing Sanjay Patil's book. In the past, we have released several other books. which goes to say, if there is any thinking going around in the world of architecture intellectually, it's happening here amongst us. We at CCBA documents our project very thoroughly. This book happened very quickly. Professor Benninger was invited to give a talk in Dhaka a year and a half back, and it just so happens to be that in the audience, the editor of Skira, Rosa Maria Flavio, happens to be sitting next to me, and she asked me a question that if there was a documentation in the form of a book, which was kind of reflecting Professor Christopher Benninger's life and work. I said, to my great surprise, no, there hasn't been of such kind of book. She took up the challenge, and about a few weeks later, she came out with a contract, and she said that it would be nice that we do a book on his work, and if you would like to support us. Bingo. We started working on it, and it took us not more than 3 months to put that book together right from scratch. In a way, in the history of Skira Rizzoli, this could have been the fastest book ever published. Our team in the office, Sundar, heading the design team, did a great layout. He learned certain softwares and composed the book. Associate architect, my friend Deepak, took a lot of efforts in re-photographing some of the buildings and to photograph some of the new buildings also, despite all the weather conditions. Astha Deshpande wrote, along with Professor Benninger, many passages. My friends at office, Sahil, Bhargav, Payal, greatly contributed to the making of this book. In 3 months, we wrote freshly all the content to suit the format of the book, re-photographed some projects, did layout and handed over to Skira Rizzoli in Milan. They took another 3 months for proof checking, handling the preprint issues, and finally printed and sent it to us in February 2016. Our team of architects, led by the Rayas and Rahul, constantly fed others who were closely involved in the making of this book, such as Shivaji, Noel, Bhushan, Gaurav, Rahul Deshmukh, Chaitanya. It feels nice when a whole team believes in doing something never done before. And if the product comes to a level of satisfaction, it's nothing but a celebration. My co-editor, Rosa, who is not with us unfortunately, we're also lucky to have the goodwill of Fumihiko Maki, Pritzker's Prize winner, and a master architect from Japan who taught Benninger at Harvard, along with Suha Özkan from Turkey, who very successfully ran for 20 years the most coveted award in architecture, the Aga Khan Awards program. Last but not the least, our dear friend Lian, who was a professor at Vienna and TU Delft, contributed their essays as they found there was the right time and the right reason for them to voice out their opinions on the theory and practice of architecture in a part of the world that was growing fast. Professor Lian Lifau specifically made her argument of the shift from the West and Northern Hemisphere to the global South and the East, where 3/4 of the world's population resides, and how Benninger was pioneering social architecture that was more relevant than the upside-down iconic projects coming up in America and Europe. Suha Özkan mentions in his essays how Benninger stuck on to his social commitment and search for cultural identities, both in India as well as in Bhutan, while designing the projects, as against mimicking aimlessly some imagery from the Western world as suitable solutions for our projects. Maki-san categorically refers to how Benninger has married the serendipity of people's joys and sorrows with the journeys that one takes using these spaces, thereby influencing the journeys we all share. Very profound observation indeed. With such good wills and wishes, the book started its journey. This large format monograph traces architectural practices through Benninger's work over the past 5 decades of economic transformation and social change. Benninger's experiences begin in the socialist closed economy era when India was a rural society. It blends into the present free market urban society of the world's largest global economy. Each of Benninger's creations, whether in urban planning or architecture, is a benchmark of India's evolving character and persona. This book has about 400 pages, about 800 color photographs, several hundred drawings and texts supporting each and every project to serve the purpose of education to both students and those who practice. For those who are new to the subject of architecture, it is a visual treat and a medium of understanding good architecture. Every project begins with a location to understand the context and the urban pattern of the location, with a central image like this one in Cochin Refinery project, where it's important to understand the relevance of backwaters and the salubrious surroundings, yet managing the humid hot climates using shading devices like louvers. In this page, as you can see, College of Engineering, Girls Hostel Building, not too far away from where we are sitting today, celebrates the honest expression of form finished concrete used in the coffered ceiling, supported by isometric plans of the building. In the subsequent pages, there was a breakaway from the heavy
told us, I don't think there's anything left for anybody to say anything. And I'll just add on to all that he has said. First of all, congratulations, Christopher, because this is really a wonderful book. I just got it yesterday, and as I was glancing through it, flipping through it rather than glancing, I saw some beautiful, wonderful structures there. And of course, I've seen many of your structures, so these will add on to what I've already seen. It's amazing that this gentleman could leave his hometown in the United States and come and make India his home. And he has been here for many, many years. And I've seen most of his work. And what I like best about him is that Ram introduced him with all the achievements that he has had. But in spite of all these achievements, I found him the most humble gentleman that we have seen here. But he never ever shows that he is a big guy and he has achieved so much and he's built so many new buildings and he has architectured so many new centers. I mean, if you see the science center that you have built in Varda, I see it's an amazing science center with a blend of Indian art and international framework. I think it's one of the best designs that I've seen. I've of course seen his own home. And he is such a great host, you know, humble as ever. He will be always there at the door to receive you. He'll always be there to see you off. He'll always be there to offer you a drink. He's always there. I don't know where you find your energy to be always there. And I really appreciate this, and I admire you for this, and I love to be your friend, and I hope I will remain your friend always. Thank you very much, and I wish you all the best for building many more structures and making Pune the real smart city. Thank you.
Christopher has been a very great friend. We have known him for a few years. A very great host, as we have already pointed out, and a very humble person. The people who achieve something in life as much as he has get egoistic and they are prouder. But this gentleman, I've never seen in my life that a more humble person than him. He's always friendly, he's always showing, and he's always teaching. I wish him all the best.
Thank you, Lisa. Lisa gave a very generous introduction. I told her to introduce me only one sentence, that I am married to Rao Dravid's sister. Christopher Benninger, whom I would like to call the Maharshi Benninger. Then my friend Ram Akkisetti, Atul Kirloskar and Arti Kirloskar, Mr. and Mrs. Poonawala, all the distinguished guests and friends. I'm really grateful to Professor Benninger to invite me here. When he called me, I was asking my wife, I'm a classical, what Harvard Marxists call a one-dimensional man, being a bureaucrat, and why is Christopher calling me? So she said, please stay here before she changes his mind. So I immediately accepted his invitation. And then I had a chance to look at his book and his writings, and he's truly a multi-dimensional genius of Pune. Professor Hardy, who discovered Ramanujan, classified people as Bradman class and others. Don Bradman, the great cricketers, Professor Hardy, and he called Ramanujan the Bradman class. So I think we have a Professor Benninger of the Bradman class in Pune, who is the true master of acoustics. Acoustics is a Greek word which means a discipline for human settlements, designing living in spaces. Professor Benninger is really a complete, he's a master of acoustics. He's not just an architect that he himself said many times in his book and also his writing. He's essentially a thinker about urban living and especially better urban designs. He's also, and I think students probably should know, he's really a leading member of, pioneering members of Indian School of Architecture. People like Shri, Charles Benninger, and of course Christopher Benninger, leading member of this Indian School of Architects, which, as Ram pointed out, these three scholars have described him, why he's a distinct school he has developed, and it's a synthesis of I think it's a beautiful line in his book, and I'm paraphrasing it, but as it captures his architectural philosophy. He says India lives in many centuries at the same time. So you find many centuries together, and that's what I think is, as I understand in architecture. And it's really, really wonderful to have Christopher amongst us. He really brings to Pune. He improves Pune's intellectual capital at its 100-fold by just being here. And this really gives me an opportunity to thank him for being in Pune and contributing so much to this city. And before I conclude, he's also a pioneer, which is really, I didn't realize it till I read that book. He was a pioneer of what is now in literature called multi-level planning, where the planning is spaces across the levels of different, and along with Professor Gadgil, Dhanjara Gadgil and Professor Dandekar, and third was Professor Benninger, who contributed to this thinking in India. And India has been leader in this thinking, and one of the contributors is Professor Benninger. So, and lastly, I would invite all of you to go and visit what he calls modestly ashram, which is his book, House called India House. It's really ashram. It's a wonderful ashram, and it's inspiring to just go there and see his house, what he calls ashram. So, Professor Benninger, thank you for inviting me, and I want to congratulate you and Ram and your colleagues on really outstanding book. It's a collector's item and it's also going to be bestseller. as a earlier book. And once again, heartily congratulations.
Thank you, sir. May I invite Arti Kirloskar to please address the audience.
You have spoken and so much has been said. What more to add? First of all, I'm really privileged that Ram has asked me to say a few words. I feel absolutely put on a pedestal. Thank you so much. Then Christopher, I've known Christopher for a number of years, and I just feel that I can talk to him anything. He's very humble, just like Dr. Kelkar said. And I think we're really very, very privileged and fortunate to have somebody as eminent as Christopher, well-traveled with so much experience, right here in Pune with us. I'd also like to add that this India House, which Ram and Christopher have started, this art gallery, which is of interest to me, and they have promoting art, doing, I was also asked to get involved with an art competition with different schools. I think that along with architecture, promoting art is also extremely important because it goes to a larger public, and art, I think, has a way of changing people's mindsets and thinking out of the box. And I think by encouraging that, I think they're doing a great favor to the city.
Thank you, Arti. May I now request Atul Kirloskar.
Good evening, everyone. I've known Christopher for quite a few years. I'm saying quite a few years because I don't remember when Arti, due to her background in art and culture, met with him and introduced me to him. And since then, we have enjoyed many evenings together discussing a variety of subjects. But I thought I'd share with you some of my thoughts when I was asked to speak. Because we've had some experiences because we've worked together on two projects that I would like to mention. One was COEP, Lila and Dr. Kelkar are both from COEP. And I'll go back to what Lila said and what Arti said and say it in my words. I think he brings in the practicality of his Western roots and the ethos and culture of India, since he spent so much time over here. And I've seen that happen when we gave the Board of Governors of COEP gave the brief to Christopher and his team. And again, what I find unique is that he listens and he listens well. That's the first thing. Second, he goes to all the stakeholders and finds out what are their needs and desires. So this is what all architects do. So what is the difference? I think the difference is that he can come up with a magical idea which just changes the whole concept and you fall in love with it. You have tried to express it to him, but he has managed to extract that magical idea. And in COEP, just to give you an example, as you know, the road splits the campus. So the campus on the left and right side of the road. He had come up with the idea of a plaza on top connecting the two campuses with the road going underneath and removing the stoplight at the Sancheti Bridge as it comes in and meets the old Bombay-Pune road. We all thought it was a wonderful idea, but unfortunately we couldn't sell it to the PMC. But even then, I think there's a lot of stuff that we're doing at COEP, and I think when it's finished, it's going to be a beautiful campus. We have also worked together on our own management institute, and students, professors, and all the people who visit it just enjoy the spaces that he has created. I would like to thank Christopher, you and Ram for inviting us to be here and honoring us. And I'd like to wish you the very best in the future, and congratulations on this fantastic book. Thank you.
Perfect. Yes, carry on, please. Please. No, carry on playing them. There we go. Perfect. Sorry, I get lonely.
One thing I want to say about this audience, because it's very different than many audiences I talk to, you are, I would say, 90% students of architecture, 10% teachers of architecture, and then all of us practicing architects are also students. So this is like a gathering of a very large family. All of you students are, in many ways, our children, and all of the teachers are our brothers and sisters. And unfortunately, I happen to be one of the oldest people here, something that I recently realized when I was over at Honorable Keshav's Institute, and looking around the audience, I couldn't find anybody older than me. That's a little scary, but I'm enjoying it. Now, I'm going to talk to you today about the architecture of the city. It's just a kind of a theme that I chose. I'm not going to show you the Mahindra United World College or the IIM Calcutta or the IIT in Hyderabad and some other projects, but I will show you a few. Okay. This is Le Corbusier's Milliners building. Beautiful building in Ahmedabad, but it's an international style. It's almost the same building which was in my campus at Harvard. The carpenters didn't have the same ramp as there, the same concrete box, but he added these brise soleil to keep the sun out and made it into an Indian building. But it's a very monumental sort of international style building, and this is one of the things that attracted me to Ahmedabad. I wanted to come and see these kind of buildings which were very famous. Now the next one, as you all know, is Louis Kahn's Indian Institute of Management. Again, he was highly influenced by some Mughal architecture in Mandu and places, but it's a very internationalist kind of a building, very monumental, almost Mughal in character. And so when I before coming to India, I knew about these buildings, and I was coming to see these buildings, but when I reached India, I saw, guess what, the next building? Charles Crea's Gandhi Ashram. Now this is the same materials as Le Corbusier, Louis Kahn. It's got brick, exposed concrete, but he uses some tile. He opens up spaces into the landscape. There's a human scale. So all these things I started to learn from Charles and Doshi because they're very different than Le Corbusier and Louis Kahn. They have a human scale, they open the inside and the outside, they also use local materials, and this is the School of Architecture where I came in 1968 as a Fulbright student and met Doshi and fell in love with this campus. So these are the kind of buildings that influenced me, I think, when I was young, and this is just a quick map of where I've done some planning, and the red are plans and the yellow are buildings across the subcontinent. Next. And so in this process, I started working in the city. And there are different approaches to work in the city. For example, urban infill, a prototype, a restructuring, an enclave, something in the periphery, an industrial satellite, and a sacred urban precinct. That's the most interesting one. Look at that. What do you think of that? That's what it looks like today. So when we bought the land, we realized it's going to be an urban jungle. It's going to face on a 100-foot road. So we thought, why don't we have
a prototype, an Indian house with a courtyard, and we would have loved to share the walls with our neighbors, but that would have been against the law. You have to keep 10-foot setback and a big door you can see down at the end, this kind of traditional door. Now the door is very important like this because it's not a door really to keep thieves out. It's a symbol that you're entering a sacred space, you're leaving the public realm, you're living the mundane street, and you're going into layers and layers of more and more sacred spaces. Perhaps the temple room or the kitchen would be the most sacred. Now this was a sketch done back in 2008, imagining the concrete jungle, and there it is, it actually starts coming up, and it will come up even more. This is just the way it looks now, or last year. So we built on the road, and again, we didn't put any windows facing east on the road, because that's a 100-foot road, and we didn't want a lot of noise and funny things coming in. And we do these isometric studies of all of our buildings to study the spaces and the form and how they go together structurally. And this is basically a house of walls. The first wall is between the street and an inside promenade. This inside promenade has the wall of the house, the second wall, and there are sculptures on the wall. There are friends of ours who come to live with us. They like us and we like them, so we said, okay, let's live together. So we have them. We have these prayer wheels from Bhutan, lovely statues from all over India, and this is how this in-between space between the public realm of the road and the sacred space inside the courtyard. So this is the second level of space, and then we use this very traditional symbol telling people you're now leaving the public space, the public domain, into something private and special. So it's a very Indian idea, Indian technique, and when you come in, you look straight down to the Shiva statue. So it draws your attention straight down through the space, and you have the office on one side and the house on the other. And this space is used very often we have groups of students coming from around the country. They land up sometimes unannounced, and I have to spend a few minutes with them, talk to them, or maybe we have some sort of a festival inside, or some of my esteemed clients. This is Zen Premji and his wife visiting us. This is the reception area with some very beautiful paintings that one on the water utility slab that you shall see next. Now see in the ceiling, it's a poured concrete building, so we could make forms and make sculptures and murals and withdraw the forms after we finish casting. Urban enclave, my friend J.R. Tonti was here at the beginning. J.R. was sitting here, he asked me to do sketches. I won't tell all the stories behind these sketches. One day he called up and said, my brother Tulsi used to. Now let me tell you, I worked closely with Varsha and Ravi Gandhi on many of my projects, and this is the kind of landscape that we can do together. And without great landscape designers, you'll never have great architecture. Utility systems. Now, urban periphery. This is Atul and Arti's campus, also Rahul and Apana and the rest of the Kirloskar family. Wanted to build a management school on the edge of the city. It's way out of the... And when we reached this stage of construction, I said, why don't we just stop and just have a monument, you know? Just have the Parthenon. It reminded me of the Parthenon in Greece. We just had a steel Parthenon. Of course, my clients thought it was crazy, and they obviously wouldn't even take it seriously. But people used to stop their cars on the Chakan Road. They would just stop the car, get down, and would stand and stare at the structure. They didn't know what the hell we were doing. But this was the framework for the factory, the basic skeleton. And then we started working on trusses inside, gantries. Look at the human scale. It's very interesting because this is what I call culture of construction. Pune is a steel center. It's a steel city. We make automobiles. We make, machinery. We make everything out of steel. Now, I could actually get these craftsmen, and all of these steel pieces are hand cut. I tried to get a computer cutting machine on site, but the craftsmen are very comfortable cutting these things themselves. So everything is handmade. The culture of construction was this woodwork. This is blue pine. It cracks. The only good wood available. But the problem is after a couple of years it will crack, big cracks open. So see, now hold this picture for a minute. Why do these look so colorful? It's blue pine. Because you wrap these in a local fabric, which is woven. It's a kind of linen. And then you take the sap from the blue pine and you put that sap on these columns after carving them and glue the linen onto the wood, and it binds the wood so the wood can't crack. And then with local mineral paints, they do this beautiful painting. And it's almost like a logo set. They know all these things, they know how to do this. So that's the culture of construction. It's very different from Chakan, and it's very different from the buildings in Pune city. But I believe we should all learn that we go to a place, what is the culture of construction? What's the culture of the people? This is a cultural space. It's for coming together. It's for His Majesty to meet His people. It's for His people to celebrate religious holidays. Now this is a picture of the fifth king, very young man. He's just come down into the audience.